is up, everyone? JD here. I hope you're all doing well today. Today I'm excited to finally bring you my review of the Divo Knives Growler. Let's go ahead and get into it. The Divo Knives Growler is a White Mountain Knives exclusive, and we're going to be going through the knife specs. To start, we're going to do some size comparisons. I'll jump into my thoughts and impressions once we get through all of that. So let's go ahead and jump into it. According to White Mountain Knives, the Growler has a 3.07 inch 14C 28M blade, 4.449 inch handles, and overall length coming in at 7.56 inches. On the website saying 4 ounces. Let's go ahead and get a measurement in. Now, disclaimer and shout out to Javier. I appreciate you, brother, loaning me the knife to take a look at it. He did mention that one of the screws for the pocket clip went missing. So that could potentially affect the weight a little bit. So 3.8 ounces. I don't know how much it would affect the weight, but I did want to disclose that. I'm sure it'll probably still come in at 3.8. I am going to look around. It is a satin screw. I have some extra hardware. I'm going to check for him to see if I can figure that out. But anyway, let's go ahead and do some size comparisons to get a point of reference for the size of this knife. First, I'm going to bring out the Divo Mash, which is going to be a Blue Creek Knives exclusive. And we're going to go ahead and bring out the Spyderco Shaman. And as you can see, this knife is really more close to the Mash. It is just a smidge shorter at the blade's tip. I don't know if you're seeing that, but it's so close, I'd probably just call it even anyway. Let's go ahead and get the Shaman out of the way. We'll bring out the SIG K320, which is made by Hogue. As you can see, the SIG is a bigger knife. Moving the Mash out of the way, we're going to go ahead and get the Bug Out here. And as you can see, the Bug Out is more close in size to the Growler, just not as much presence on the table. Let's go ahead and move the K320 out of the way. Man, I love that knife. Bring out some budget knives here for size reference. Here it is against the Praxis from Civivi. Move the Bug Out, and here it is against the Elementum 2 button lock. So hopefully all of these size references have really helped you as far as the size of this knife. It is closer to the smaller end of the pool. It's a medium knife. I mean, it's closer to the smaller, but it's more of what I would constitute a medium knife. Let's go ahead and do some thickness profile comparisons so you can get an idea of how it's going to be in hand and in pocket. So here it is against the button lock, the Elementum 2 button lock. And as you can see, the Elementum 2, this one's a thicker knife, even thicker than the regular Elementum. We're going to bring it up against the Bug Out with the Flytanium scales. I would say that's close enough to be considered even. And I wanted to do it against the Mash since I have the Mash out here. The Mash with the contoured scales versus the flat scales, probably just a hair thicker, not by much at all. Okay, now with all of those out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the knife. I really do like the ergos on this. It looks like a comfortable knife, and in hand it is a comfortable knife. With the flat scales, it definitely feels more thin. So if you like the Bug Out or knives like the Bug Out that are more thin, not only is it going to carry nicer in pocket, but it's going to feel nicer in hand. So very comfortable. I do feel the cutouts a little bit around here. Like I feel a little bit of sharpness right here from where the micarta scale terminates and the lock comes over. I can feel that a little bit when I'm holding it. It's scratchy, but it's not really pokey. So like it rubs across the finger and I can feel that a little bit. The forward finger choil just has enough room for the larger hands. As you can see, see if I can get some light on there. I just barely make it past the edge of that. So it is right on the cuffs of just being under XL, or XL and under, I should say. The knife itself has a really nice deep carry pocket clip, very springy. It doesn't look like it would have enough room, but it actually goes in and out of the pocket fine. It is reversible, which is no surprise from Lefty. Over at Divo Knives, it does have a micarta back spacer. I don't know if you're going to be able to see the threads, but let's see if I'm catching the light. You can probably see how the threads match the scale. So it does have the micarta backspacer, which is a nice touch for a budget knife. It is very thin, and I don't know what type of edge it came with the factory, because Javier did tell me that this sits on his desk at work and it is a user knife, and it feels like it actually has a burr on this side of the knife. And I can tell you, let me grab a piece of paper. It does show that it has some signs of wear. I don't know if you're going to be able to really tell, but you see at certain points on the blade where it's kind of tearing. So when I actually, and I'm getting ready to address this here in a second, when I work on some of the issues that Javier brought up, because he told me to have at it, because it's content for the channel, which I appreciate, we'll get into that. Access to the lock bar is good. You have nice action here. It's very smooth. Detent feels a little light on here, so I do plan to tune that for him. And the other issue, as you can see there, it has lock stick. And I think part of the reason for that is he doesn't give, but the lock bar is only locking up at like 10 to 15% on the lock bar. So let me back up a little bit. It's not locking up very well, and I think there might be a burr or something that's causing it to come over. So when I do the disassembly for this, I am going to address that for Javier. And again, because I wanted to show how to try to fix the lockup on it, because it will eventually move over, but it's not going to move over that much. It's going to take a long time for this hardened liner and hardened steel to lock up. I do like the thumb hole. It's almost too big. I actually flip it with the meat of my finger. I don't actually go in to the hole with my finger, because it almost kind of catches to where you can't open it. But with the meat and deploying it that way works just fine. And then same for the thumb. It actually deploys a little bit better with the thumb. And I think that's because you're putting pressure into the detent ball versus the reverse flick. You're pushing it away from the detent ball. So I think that's part of the problem. This is got a lot of belly in it. I didn't test it too much because it's not my knife, but I'm thinking you're going to be okay. For me, again, larger hands, push and cut, I'm going to be closer out here to the belly. So I'm gonna, I'd need to be mindful to push inward and down to make sure that I don't slip out of any cuts. But for EDC, this is going to be fine. It's going to be good to get into your packages. The drop point's down low enough to where it's not super uncomfortable if you're doing any type of draw utility cuts. I'm definitely going to have to edit that out. And then when you're trying to get into the packages, putting it in from the side like that, really comfortable pinch grips. And again, this blade is super, super thin. Now, alternative recommendations. This is closer to that $80 price point. So I'm going to do one button lock, which is going to be the Civivi Conspirator. I really like this because it is a much more full-size knife. Nitro V is a little bit more tough. And I like that it takes the same type of edge. It has the same type of edge retention that you find on the 14C28N. So again, from a budget perspective, you're getting a really fidgety knife. You're getting a little bit more neutral handles that has a little bit more contouring, a little bit more thickness on the handles. So if you like something that's a little bit more fuller in hand, that's where that recommendation comes from. And if you don't like button locks, and you still want something that's full size, again, we're still on the full size recommendations here. I am going to recommend the Praxis for the liner lock. You're not getting as good a steel as you are on the Growler, but you're coming in at a little bit less money too, but you're getting that full size action. You're getting that thin slicey blade, and it is still a liner lock that works really, really well. And you can get enough leverage underneath where the flat grind stops to reverse flick. So if you like that, you can. It's not meant for that, but you can do that. And then if you want something a little bit more premium, since we didn't get the USA made Growler yet, I know he's checking, and he updates periodically in his videos at random that he's still checking for USA made Growler. He wants to make that happen, and I believe him. But if he doesn't, I personally hope that he goes to Best Tech and tells them to go ahead and make the knife that they already made the prototypes for. Anyway, moving on. If you wanted something a little bit more premium, that is also an exclusive. Blue Creek Knives, I like Brian over there. You get this hollow ground mash with the titanium scales. but it is going to be almost double the price of the Growler. 14C28N, liner, inset liner lock, titanium scales with the titanium hardware. So justifiably a little bit more, but if you're on that budget or if you don't like titanium, the Growler is an easy recommendation. I assume it did well, I think. From what I recall, I don't think it stayed in stock forever, so I could see White Mountain Knives wanting to do more variants of this. And it's a good knife. I just would like to see, I think it's Shieldon Knives, I hope I'm saying that right, just fix the lockup issue here to prevent the lock stick from happening on any models, and then work on your detent tuning, and I think, you know, that would take care of those issues. Cool knife. I think this is another good one from Divo Knives. I personally wouldn't pick this one up for myself because of the fact that it does have some of the issues that it has, but I believe that they will right that wrong and fix it in future iterations. So don't let this deter you from getting one on the next batch. It's just this past batch, I think it was a little bit of a QC miss, and that's an easy thing to fix. If you like the looks, you like the price point, you like the materials, you can feel confident picking this one up for sure. If you enjoyed today's video, do me a favor, leave a like, consider subscribing if you're not already subscribed. I'd love to have you follow along. Thanks to everyone out there that leaves the likes, the comments, and is already subscribed. I appreciate your support. I hope all of you have a fantastic week, and until next time, peace.